Welcome to episode.
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 Welcome to episode 405 of Flyaway. Over the past few years, we've been reminded time and again how much the world relies on travel. From supporting local economies to learning about new cultures, the experience that travel provides helps to make our world smaller and bring us closer together. Here at Outlander Travel, we've been proud to be a small part of bringing that to you through our weekly podcast. If you'd like to see what we're talking about, be sure to check out our YouTube channel by searching for Flyaway Podcast. My name is George, and this week I'm joined by fellow Outlander travel agents Elizabeth and Lindsay. It's been 10 years since a Disney Cruise Line last introduced a new ship. That was the Disney Fantasy, and that brought Disney's fleet up to 4 ships. This summer, after much ado and a few delays, Disney's 5th ship, the Disney Wish, started welcoming guests on board. Different from her older sisters in many ways, we're excited to see what she has in store. And Elizabeth was recently invited on board for a 3-night sailing to explore, learn, and come back and share the good, the bad, and the not quite so pretty about this ship. So let's get started. So yeah, this will be great. I'd always like a compare and contrast type of theme of what's different, especially when it's a new, not a cruise line, a new ship class where they suddenly decide to throw in the kitchen sink to attract new cruisers.
Well, you can't say suddenly. They did take 10 years to do this. So, I mean, it's been a gradual throwing in the kitchen sink.
That's true. But I can tell you that when I did that Adventures by Disney tour, and that was in 2018, they were already talking to us about the new ship. So I think COVID really put a kink in their plans and delayed this one, or it wouldn't have been 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know what the intent was and like the intended date, but I will say that the shipyards all were delayed in general during COVID. So it's very likely that it was actually, the nice thing is for Disney, they don't really give dates until very, very late in the process. So they didn't let us know, and we didn't know that there any different, except the maiden voyage was supposed to be in June and it ended up being in July. They did have to delay it about 6 weeks because it just wasn't ready. And I can tell you, I was on a, and I do want to, I almost said the good, the bad, and the ugly as I was writing those. And of course, there's nothing really ugly about a Disney ship, truly. But, it wasn't quite ready for prime time when I was on board. And I never want to be a negative Nelly about anything, but I will be as honest as I can be. There's going to be some things I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to answer questions on very well because I couldn't experience them because they weren't ready.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I've heard that DCL ships, each one sort of has their own theme that kind of guides the decisions they made on planning and designing of the ship. What was the theme for the Wish?
Well, and in reality, the first 4 didn't really have that. They didn't have a theme. Yeah, it was more those 4 ships. In reality, the first 2, the Magic and the Wonder, and Lindsay, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you've been on all of them as well, are basically sister ships to each other. And then the Dream and the Fantasy are bigger sisters with a lot of the same things and some cool new tech that had come out in the meantime. But in reality, if you've been on one, you could navigate any one of the 4. It's just how long you had to walk to do so, right? Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I would agree that. I don't think there's a lot of difference too much in the design as far as the aesthetic and the flow, and even repeating several of the same areas even across both types there. This seemed, from what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've been on board, it seems like this is a completely new, where they took, was it the theme of Cinderella? Is it
enchantment? Was the
okay.
That was their word that they built,
and kind of built off of that so that every area flows throughout the ship. At least that's what the mock-ups I keep seeing in the videos.
And we were, because I was on a travel trade and media event, we had meetings with people who I say meetings, I sat in a big room and they sat on stage, so it wasn't like we got to have a little tet or anything. But they had some interesting panels, and they talked about that sort of that one big difference with the Triton class, which there's 2 more ships to come in this Triton class. Each one has a theme word, and this one was enchantment, and so they try to weave that throughout the story of the ship. This is very Disney language. It's almost I'm almost feeling a little cliche saying it out loud, but it is very noticeable. And like an example is in the main atrium, which now has a stage and it does have a restaurant entrance too, technically, but it's not like where the entrance to the restaurant is the main feature, where that normal on the other 4 ships is normally a door to the restaurant. Now it's a stage. And there's an upper stage where characters will appear. And then the chandelier is part of the show as well. And there's a ceremony that happens on regular intervals where they enchant the ship. And there's this like music and lights and the chandelier, does a little sparkly Eiffel Tower-esque kind of, it's different than that, but that's my best comparison. So yeah, it's almost a kiss goodnight kind of thing where it's like a little, And that's just one example of ways that they've added enchantment to the ship.
I feel like they kind of took this whole dinnertainment idea and just ran full speed to the wind with it. Because the hardest dinner together, the one everyone always wanted to repeat on the other 4 cruises, was the animator's palette because of the interactive features. And I feel like Disney kind of saw that and they went, we'll just do a whole ship with
so
interactive.
I have an unpopular opinion. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't love animator's palette. It's my least favorite restaurant on the ship. On the old ships. It is it's fine, but like the promise of the dining room changing during dinner, it's movies. It's not like there's anything, sorry to ruin the magic if you haven't been on it, but the servers change costumes, and I mean it's fun, but I never was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And I can't draw to save my life. So even on a 7-day cruise, when they add the little drawing exercise, I'm like, this is terrible. I'm literally hating this. So Animator's Palette was not my favorite. It's been replaced on this one with Marvel, and it's pretty much the same idea. Now, I want to preface this by saying maybe it wasn't completely ready. Maybe I missed something, but my dinner was fine. It was tasty, and the food was fun. Like, you get one big giant shrimp that's been, Pym eyes or whatever. I mean, they had those great gimmicks that you wanted. There's this cool thing on your table that lights up, and Marcus got this souvenir cup in the same sort of little Pym thing that will light up. It actually, the lights go down as he's drinking it. It was expensive but cool. But the rest of the time was basically, there were some cut scenes with Ant-Man and the Wasp on screen. And then there were highlights from every Avengers and Marvel movie ever that had to do with Pym technology. So if it involved the Pym technology, an example would be Captain America's transformation, then it was, you saw but it was a highlight reel. Right. And then every now and then Ant-Man and the Wasp would cut in and say something funny, and let's face it, Ant-Man is hilarious. Paul Rudd is fantastic. Yeah. And then at the end, Ant-Man and Wasp walked by my table and waved, and then it was over. And I was like, oh, now I understand from other people who were on board that actually, depending on where you're sitting, there's actually like an interaction that happens, but that didn't happen for me. So I was a little underwhelmed. I wasn't disappointed because, again, it was fun and the food was all Pimmy, and they really took the Avengers theme on the menu. So there's something from Asgard, and there's something from like they've taken that and really run with it. So there's these great, and the food was very, very good. So as far as a dinner goes, I had a great time, but it wasn't the show that I was hoping for it to be. It is possible that it just wasn't ready yet. That it just wasn't,
or that you were maybe not in the right seat,
or that maybe I was
not on the right table.
Yeah, I would hope that Disney would, make it a show for everyone, but it could be that timing was off, and so they skipped my section because, of timing. I will say that the next night I went to Arendelle. So Disney does that rotational dining. So if you're new to Disney Cruise Line, one of the best things I think about Disney is they do this rotational dining where you move through the 3 main dining rooms on assigned nights, and your servers move with you. So they really get to know you. So you get that old world cruise feeling that you get from a small ship or from old school cruising, but with a different restaurant, different theme, different food every night. And my second night, on the other ships, it's not quite as, it's themed, but it's not quite so showy, like Lindsay was saying. On this one, they just said, we're going to do shows, and they do. So my next night was in Arundel. And first of all, I have to say, we walked down the longest hallway. I'm pretty sure that we left the ship and were on the Magic that must have been magically anchored behind it, because I don't know how they could have fit a hallway this long on this ship. And it was very reminiscent. I'm trying to think of like shows that you go to that are dinner shows where it's set so far back. Well, it's just like this. I mean, there's this very long hallway. So it wasn't visible. If you weren't in the dining room, there was no way you were going to accidentally see the show, which is great. Our table for this restaurant, same table number, was right next to the stage, right next to it. I was thrilled. I was so happy. The musicians, the singer was terrific. I mean, world-class, Disney all the way, sang almost every song from Frozen and Frozen 2, just beautiful voice. And then the characters, Anna, Elsa, they don't actually sing. They did a little bit of singing, but they were not the singers. The singers were like singers, beautiful voices. And we were right there. So later, a group of people that I know who were on board were asking, did anybody get anything more than a smile and a wave from Anna and Elsa? I was like, oh, she stopped and talked to me because I was wearing my sparkly jacket. And she asked me if I'd use permafrost in order to get it sparkly. And so apparently that might be a thing, is wherever you're sitting will depend on how much interaction you get. And hopefully those table numbers are consistent so that if you do have the table in the back that doesn't get any Ant-Man and Wasp interaction, you will then be right up front and center for Arundel like I was. I don't know. I don't have any scientific proof of that, but it was kind of nice that it alternated that way.
Yeah, it'll be nice if it does alternate, because then you won't have people, oh, I need to be in this table.
Right.
At this
Exactly.
restaurant.
Right. And there's no way to predict that. So please don't call us and ask us.
Yeah,
We can't,
don't ask us for that. We can't do that.
We won't know what your rotation is unless you're concierge level, then we can request it and you'll probably get it. But if you want to pay for concierge, then by all means call us. But other than that, you can't find out ahead of time. And then the third restaurant is 1923, which is themed after Carthay Circle and Walt Disney's, heyday. And it was considered our more elegant dining, and we did dress up for that. There was one group of ladies that were dressed as flappers from the 20s, because it is sort of a 20s and 30s era, restaurant, that Hollywood era. Lots of Disney memorabilia. And there's actually two sides to the dining room, the Walt Disney side and the Roy Disney side. I got seated on the Roy Disney side. I was a little sad, but I do like Roy.
Why?
But honestly, it's the same dining room. I don't know. I just wanted to be in the Walt Disney. I don't know. And I'm sure there's other people like that. But I got over it.
Walt was the creative, but if it hadn't been for Roy, none of it would have happened. So
That's
very
true.
true.
That's
Very
really
true. Absolutely.
because anybody can be creative.
So would you
Anyway.
say that the Marvel and the 1923 were more just, I don't know, a little bit of show, and Arundel was supposed to be the big dinner theater? Okay.
Arundel was absolutely 100% dinner theater. Like it was. It wasn't. Now, when I say dinner theater, there was a storyline. It was very loose. It was mostly about the songs. So it was mostly a dinner show, kind of like Hoop-de-Doo. Like you could probably find a plot if you squinted a little bit, but it's really about the music and the dancing and all that. So there is a plot. And honestly, I don't even feel like I'm spoiling it. It's set to be sort of the celebration of Anna and what's his name's engagement. What is his name? Christoph's engagement. I was wanting to say Sven, and I'm like, she's not.
That's a completely different movie.
Whole different movie. And Olaf does make an appearance, and the mechanism is really cool. My kids were fascinated by it. They were just like, how is that happening? So it was very. I kind of can figure it out. It's not that weird, but I guess they're so used to like PlayStation 3 games that look like real life that when they see an audio animatronic, it's like, wow. But it was such a delightful show and 100% enjoyable. And even if the music kind of relatively annoys you, it won't in this show. It's just so beautifully sung and performed. It's just really, really good. But yes, you're right. And 1923 was absolutely a dinner. There was no show element to it at all.
Okay.
It was just a very good dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
All right. So as we know, nobody does entertainment like Disney does. So what did they have to offer on this ship?
So I have to tell you, I was disappointed and surprised and like all these things all at once. I was disappointed because it became kind of clear that we were not going to see Aladdin on this cruise. And since then, they've announced that Aladdin actually will not be available even to the first like 4 weeks worth of sailings on this ship. It's just not quite ready. I got to say, I do think that I don't know what's holding up because I mean, entertainment is something you can rehearse off ship, right? So the entertainers are probably up to speed, but then the technology aspect of it, and of course there's a lot of tech in both of those shows. I don't know for sure in Aladdin because I didn't get to see it. Little Mermaid, we were starting to think we weren't going to get to see it at all, and then at about 4:30 on the last day, they were like, they added it to our navigator. It was at 6 o'clock and then at like 8:30. And the fact that they had it at 6 would have been a giveaway anyway, because normally the show is at 6:30. So it was a little early and sudden. And we sit down and we were told, welcome to the dress rehearsal of The Little Mermaid. I'm like, okay. And of course I'm delighted. I'm like, dress rehearsal, great. But the theater's packed. I mean, it's basically a preview performance is what it was. It was a little bit, but there was a technical glitch about 20 minutes in that was about a 20-minute delay. Marcus almost walked out. He literally said, if the show doesn't come back at 6:45, I'm leaving. And at 6:45, the curtain went back up. I was like, I did that on purpose too. However, when the curtain went back up, we saw exactly why there was a technical glitch, because it was a bit like that moment, that scene change was huge. And so completely forgivable that it went a little awry. The first night that we were on board, though, they presented Seize the Adventure, Seize SEAS, Seize the Adventure. And the description tells you Captain Minnie is piloting the ship, and Goofy really wishes he could be a captain one day, but he's just too darn goofy. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it says. And I'm like, great, a Disney musical review, great. I can't wait to see what songs they put in it. Great. I mean, I love Disney. I was 100% there for it, but I was not expecting what happened, which was I was blown away. It was my favorite show. Even wow. I could ignore the Little Mermaid technical hiccup. I do theater. It's not unusual. I can totally ignore it. And Little Mermaid was very good and had a great twist. Disney has very much decided that they're going to embrace modern thinking, and they are willing to put women front and center. And I say that as a woman, but also as someone who sometimes we don't realize how much the women are pushed to the background, even the leading ladies. This song, the playlist is now on my Spotify, because I made the playlist so I could remember which songs were in it. The show opens with some stuff, but the first song is Go With the Flow from the Finding Nemo, the musical from the parks that's no longer happening. The best song in that show. Such a great show. Such a great show about parenting. Such a great show about allowing yourself to make mistakes and allowing others to make mistakes and allowing people to be who they are. And I won't give away the show, but it was hands down my favorite show that I've ever seen on a Disney ship. And I saw Beauty and the Beast, and I loved Beauty and the Beast on a Disney ship. This was even, and I left that show saying it's the best show I've ever seen on a ship, and maybe better than some that I've seen on land. I was blown away. The music they selected, there isn't one old school princess in this show, except at the very end, they dance them out because they have to. I mean, because everybody would be upset if they didn't get to see their princesses. But it's Elsa, it's Moana, it's Crush. It's, yeah. And my favorite Disney song ever, which I will not give away, but if you know me, you know what it is. And it's not done very often. And they started singing it, and Fidley and Marcus looked at me and they were like, Mom, I'm like, I know, I'm already crying. So it was just fantastic. So yeah, 100% delivers. The theater is beautiful. They can use projections in that theater like never before. The Little Mermaid, there are many times where you are transported under the sea, and it definitely feels that way. They take a lot of the technology that they used in Finding Nemo the musical and sort of multiply it. I was a little disappointed they weren't out in the audience more, but I also wonder if that's A, COVID, and B, preparation. Like the Little Mermaid only had Flotsam, not Flotsam and Jetsam. I'm pretty sure there's a Jetsam. I'm just thinking maybe he was not feeling up to snuff that night. So, yeah.
Maybe he was on the menu.
Yeah.
Oh, George, that's so bad.
So, kids clubs. This was one of the few videos I caught on YouTube about the Wish, and it happened to show the Star Wars cargo bay. And I
Yeah.
was really impressed with how well that was themed.
It's impressive. It's impressive. And the Marvel area is also very heavily themed. I'm not positive it was done, but it's very, and the kids clubs are basically the entire second deck, which is a really interesting place to put the kids clubs. So fewer cabins down there and more kids club. And it's almost the whole deck. It's, you know, cabins only on the starboard side. I had to remember which one was which. Of that deck. A few, I think there's a few on the port side near the aft, but almost the rest of the floor is taken up by kid space, little kid space. Edge and Vibe are still upstairs and not together. Edge is on, oh, don't quote me on this, but like 6-ish, and then Vibe is all the way upstairs, sort of tucked away. Marcus spent a lot of time in Vibe. I almost invited him on tonight just to talk about it, but he would have just gone on and on. So he loved it. The kids' activities look great. We didn't really get to see very much, of course, and that's one thing as a travel trade event. The kids that were there seem to be having a good time, but they don't let you in when there's kids in there for safety reasons. So,
Yep.
So we didn't really get to see them interacting. But I mean, I would have had fun in there for sure.
Cool. And what can you tell us about Pirate Night?
So Pirate Night is not Pirates in the Caribbean. It is the Pirate Rock and Roll Parlay, which sort of plays on the word party too, partay. And I was a little skeptical, not gonna lie. I mean, I'm used to my Pirates in the Caribbean, and the way things go, this was better. I'm not even gonna dance around it. It was better. There's nothing wrong with Pirates in the Caribbean. However, the rock and roll band was fantastic. They only had 3 pieces that night. Again, I feel like there's usually more, but I think maybe that night not everybody was participating. And the fireworks are to live music. The Pirates of the Caribbean theme is played for the fireworks live, which is my favorite. Cool. I mean, you say fireworks and live music at the same time, and I'm in 100%. So it was great. The fireworks show went off without a hitch, without a burn, without anybody catching on fire. And Marcus danced until 1 o'clock in the morning on the deck. He came back to the room and I was like, Marcus, where have you been? He's like, I need a shower. I was like, where have you been? Just dancing and sweaty. So really good stuff.
Great. And how about the spa? Did you get a chance to get a treatment or at least visit?
Lindsay, don't kill me, but I didn't. However, I sent Finley and he loved it. And he also fell for the sales pitch. So I will be mortgaging my house to pay for all the Elemis products that he came back to the room with.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. So we had a long talk about sales pitches, but it's all skincare stuff that he actually, I was like, if you use it, I will not make you pay for it. That cut our shopping for the rest of the trip very short, however. So he did partake of the spa. He got a facial and a massage, and he said he loved it. He said it was lovely. We walked into the spa. He's like, oh, it smells so good in here. I'm like, I know, right? So we did not partake in the rainforest room. Honestly, it was a matter of timing. It was a 3-night cruise, and I felt very obligated to try all the things. This was a media and travel trade event.
It's
so
hard.
I felt like I needed to be working. I did send Marcus to the Barbary for his first, he shaves, but it was for his first shave where somebody else shaved him, did the full, hot towel and everything. He was so funny. I was like, did you like it? He was like, Mom, it was so expensive. I was like, that's not what I asked you. So whereas one son is spending lots of money on product in the spa, the other one's like, oh my gosh, I got a shave and it was super expensive, Mom.
I feel like I have to ask this. Did Captain Hook shave him? Like,
no.
What's there like?
But it's Captain Hook's Barbary, right? No, but the costumes are like fire. The costumes are just amazing. They're perfect pirate costumes, and they have a tool belt like with their tools in it, that is very piratey looking. And they do tastings in there. They do rum tastings in there. So there's actually a bar in there. Yeah.
Oh, see, I would go just for the bar.
Yep, exactly. And there were, by the way, there was like 3 women at the rum tasting that I walked by. It's small. It's very small in there. So I don't know how many people they can fit, whether that was full or not. I wouldn't have wanted to be in there with more than that, though. It's a small space. But
I'd have gone just
I'm waiting to see who the first ship that puts a cigar and whiskey bar on board.
Norwegian.
Oh, do they have one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do.
DCL.
Nice.
All the breakaway class, and I think everything since the breakaway, right?
Oh,
Not to talk about,
not to talk about another one, but yeah,
Right.
it was so popular they had to keep. It's now one of the things they throw in.
The cigar bar is in a closed like smoking room, so the whiskey bar is right next to it, and then you have to go into the cigar area. So it's not a cigar and whiskey; it's like right next to each other.
Which is nice for those of us who like whiskey but can't be around smoke.
Exactly.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
So I have to ask about there's, the other, Disney's always had at least one option that was adults only for food, but there's 3 now on the list, right?
Yes.
3?
And 3?
I thought there was 3. Is there 3? How many adult only?
No, just 2. Just 2.
Oh, okay.
It's Palo and it's Enchanté. Yeah, there's no Remy. Remy was replaced with Enchanté. You made me doubt myself though. I was like, wait, but there is the Rose, which is the bar up there, which is totally worth a stop. Yeah. Okay. So again, special sailing, only 3 nights. Felt like I needed to do all the rotational dining, so I did not try to make a reservation at one of those restaurants, and I would have under any other circumstance.
Like, you get a pass.
Yeah. So Palo is the northern Italian that you're used to at Palo on the other ships, but then they've added like a steakhouse menu to it as well. So I didn't hear any complaints, didn't hear anything good, didn't hear anything bad, other than I did have a friend who got to eat Palo in her room because she won a night in the Tower Suite. We could talk about that. And I got to hang out with her after dinner, but they got Palo delivered to their room for that night. So, but I did go up to the Rose because I knew that Lindsay would be disappointed and maybe not even call me her friend anymore if I didn't go try it. And I would have spent the entire cruise up there had it been open all the time. I
wouldn't have cut you off completely, but I might have judged you just a
okay. Beautiful bar, beautiful atmosphere, beautiful cocktails, beautiful everything. So really great. And I didn't have to be going to Enchanté or to Palo to go there. You can just go up there and enjoy a drink and then go eat in your regular everyday Arundel restaurant.
So I know they've got the Hyperion Lounge, but I saw on this list Ale and Compass. Is that like the Ale and Compass at the yacht club?
Oh, I think it's Keg and Compass. I'm sorry if I take that wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I got excited there for a second. I was like,
that was probably me. Mixing up my. It's Keg and Compass actually. Yeah, I typed it right in the show notes. I'm looking at it. Yeah, so Keg and Compass is a kind of a nautical theme, like a Norwegian themed sports bar pub. And the head chef was at one of those panels that I got to sit in on, and he is from Northern England. So he's like, I do know a thing about English pub fare. So I did not get a chance to eat in there. Meals were really large, and I was trying to spread my knowledge all over the ship. But it had a beer menu that you expect from Disney. There wasn't a ton of variety, but some great beers for sure.
That's why you should send me on these previews, because I would have gotten everything done.
I did a lot, my friend. I did a lot. And every time I was like, Lindsay will be judging me, so I must do this. I will say it was hard to not keep going back to the Bayou, because that bar, it's in the middle of a hallway near all the designer shops. And it's beautiful. Like there's these flowers lit up on the ceiling with the fireflies and everything, very Tiana themed, with a whole lot of New Orleans themed drinks, including a hurricane, but also some stuff with absinthe in it. I was really impressed with the cocktail, and every cocktail menu did have unique items.
Okay.
While we're talking about that. Yeah, so Bayou, I think, is always all ages because it's literally out in the middle of the floor. But one thing that Disney did on this ship that that is being criticized heavily, and I honestly can't tell you whether or not I care, is the adult only areas have been spread out around the ship. So the Hyperion Lounge is right next to the Bayou. And so if your kid sees it, I don't know if I want to be a part of that conversation where you tell them they can't go in. And then just down from that is Nightingales, which is named after the
kids learning how to be adults. You're going to be told no, and that's not for you a lot in
your
life.
Yes, so. Exactly. And we could talk more about the Hyperspace Lounge, but I have my beef about that. But Nightingales is family friendly up until a certain point, but it's also in the middle of the ship, so it's very easy for a kid to continue to wander in there. That was my favorite bar. It's the piano bar with some live music in it, but the drinks all had a bubble theme. Some were ice
Oh.
bubbles, and so they would bring you this like big cube of, those were sweet drinks, like dessert drinks, like chocolate martinis and things, with this big ice cube in it that you would hammer and break up into little chips of ice. It was really cool. Then they had champagne cocktails, so of course there's bubbles in the champagne, but the champagne glasses had an air bubble blown into the champagne glass as well, so you had that.
I saw that.
And
I was
then
gonna ask you about.
yeah, my
You had
favorite
one
was
of
the
those.
one, yeah, well, so I did have the champagne cocktail, but the one that I had posted the video of was one of the air bubbles. And that's one where they have a gun that blows a smoke bubble on top of your cocktail. And that was basically an old fashioned, a martini, I mean, those sorts of things with a smoke bubble on top of it that you could pop and the smoke. Oh. It's a gimmick, and I am sold 100%.
It's not really a gimmick because it does infuse the flavor of the
Yes.
smoke, and you're supposed to leave it on there for a little bit longer so it's a gimmick, but it's a purposeful gimmick.
Well, and not only should you leave it there for a little bit because it infuses it, but then when you pop it, you get that scent which comes before your drink, so you get sort of that smoky. It really, it was delightful. And then the Keg and Compass and Luna, and they're all sort of down at one end of the ship, but Luna has an open deck on the second floor where kids could look in during adult entertainment. Now, adult entertainment on Disney doesn't involve anything.
I had to say that, I mean, I'm just not picturing forlorn little children with nothing to do on this amazing ship that was pretty much 90% of it was designed. I mean, isn't there a slide that goes from a little secret door down to the kids club? Okay, so my sympathy for these children who are pining in the windows of this little adult area. Looking like vagrants in the rain outside.
To be fair,
it's very minimal because I can't make cupcakes or do mad scientist experiments or go drive the Millennium Falcon or any of that stuff on the cruise line.
Yeah, and the thing is with Luna, it's not that they're press their face against the window. There is no window, so if there's a comedian in there, you could hear everything he was saying. But the thing is, on Disney, it's still a fairly clean show.
Are your kids gonna? Whose kids are gonna be so bored that they're gonna be hanging outside there though?
They should be downstairs on deck too, where children belong.
You are never gonna see them. They're gonna be in these kids clubs. They're gonna be doing. What did you say? Marcus came home at 1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. Well, of course, Marcus is 16, so he's almost an adult. But and then the Hyperion Lounge, I need to say, I mean, I did get to walk in when we first boarded. Again, this is a media cruise, so we were allowed into these spaces. However, getting a reservation was ridiculous, and I don't know if it's going to get better. I don't know if I just didn't know enough to know what I was supposed to do, but apparently you're supposed to go to the Keg and Compass, big secret, on the first day and get your reservation. Could that change by the next sailing? Absolutely. I have no idea. There was nothing official written anywhere that I could find. And honestly, after I walked through, and this is going to sound so elitist, so Disney fan, it's the Galactic Star Cruiser. I've been there. I've done that. I literally got the t-shirt. So I mean, I looked at the drink menu, and and some of the glassware that I talked about on that episode, it's the same stuff. So, and I would say, if you can't go to the Galactic Star, if you can't afford to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser, go on the Disney Wish. And then I'm like, no, actually just go on the Star Cruiser because it might be cheaper. So depending on the cruise that you're taking and the cabin you're taking. So it was, I mean, I'm sure it was a great time. And I sound a little bitter. I'm really not. I made a conscious decision not to stress about it. Let somebody else go in there. A lot of the decoration was the same. The window was definitely very cool where it looks, but it's the same tack as the Star Cruiser.
Let's talk about why you didn't get the $5,000 drink.
Because I couldn't get in, Lindsay. Otherwise, I totally would have done it.
You would not have spent $5,000 on a drink.
No,
there's no way.
There really isn't. I mean, I've thought of almost every possible scenario, and I think Sandy said that the rumor is that you get a ticket to, and somebody else said that.
I said that, and that was the rumor that I read, was that you got a ticket to Skywalker Ranch. But I have to tell you that would be the only.
There's no way that you could get a ticket to Skywalker Ranch for $5,000. Like literally no way. I just can't see that ever being the case, right, George? I mean, if that were the case,
think so.
You would have
No.
gone a long time ago.
It would have been on the
George would have
ABD.
done it.
Yeah. And you're the cheapest person on this podcast. So yes, I would say
George would have bought two. And even my husband,
Yeah.
who's not a Disney person,
Yeah.
would have been like, oh, a ticket to Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
He actually watched something on Netflix, like Skinwalkers, because he read it too fast and he thought it's Skywalker.
That it was a little different from what he expected.
Oh, I bet it was.
Not at all.
So I'm sure
Anyway.
that, the rumor, the better rumors that I've heard is that it is an experience drink, that there is an experience that comes with it. Again, I can't imagine.
It looked like four
why
shots.
Yeah.
It just looked like four, and you
yeah.
don't even get to keep the container, which as somebody who collects
No, unacceptable.
overpriced
Too much.
drink holders, no. This
Well,
is
I'm
not
sure
worth
the
it at all.
alcohol in it is something very rare as well. Like I think that you and I, Lindsay, would geek out over whatever is in it.
Over the booze,
Probably,
not
yes.
so much the show. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. But
So
I think
so
there
yeah,
are other ways to try that.
I would not go on this cruise ship just because of Hyperspace Lounge. I think there's absolutely a chance you wouldn't even get in. So I wouldn't want that to be my whole like raison d'etre for doing this cruise. It is a very cool space though. It's small. Part of the reason why they have to take the reservations, but
You didn't get in, but it didn't affect if somebody misses out on that, is it going to ruin their entire cruise that they didn't get to do this one thing?
I feel like a complete person.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I feel like a lot of people are going to need to hear that, because a lot of these
Yeah.
spaces probably aren't designed for every single person, because this is a big ship. What's the capacity on this now?
Oh, you put me on the spot. I'm not sure. We could put it in the show notes, but and George may look it up while we're talking here because he usually does that. But
I can do that.
he's like
Okay.
clickety.
Clickety.
Yeah. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, I mean, I will also say that because I saw the space and went, I feel like I've already done this and I want other people to have a chance. And I literally did sort of, and you know me, I'm not going to elbow people. I don't even like going to the buffet because I don't like fighting for my food or fighting for my space. If you want to get in there more than then go ahead. I am not in the mood to go to battle. So no, I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I got to see some amazing bars, some amazing spaces, had some amazing cocktails. I will say that had I not already done the Galactic Star Cruiser, I might have been more upset about it. So honestly, I am in a very privileged position where I'd already done that. And so I just didn't fight for it. And so I'm sorry, I can't really relay how it truly was.
No, it's
but
fine.
Just based on what I saw.
That's all that was all over Instagram, was everybody who just couldn't wait to throw $5,000 at Mickey Mouse but there's this double-edged sword with this Disney stuff, because we all love Disney and it tugs at our heartstrings. And then things like this come out, and if someone has a great experience, they go talk about it, and then everybody else hears it, everybody else wants that same exact experience, and then they hinge their entire happiness. Kind of, sometimes it can happen around one or two things, but it looks like there's so much to do and see on the Wish that you could have you could sail probably 4 or 5 times and have a different experience every single time.
The most you get, unless you book a back-to-back, is a 4-night. And that is just, I mean, you barely scratch the surface. Now, I will also say one thing about my sailing, and I don't know if it's because of travel trade and they wanted us to be working, so they didn't give us a lot of fun activities. I hardly saw the activities team at all. I only saw blue and red shirts the first day, which is their normal uniform, for the sail away party, which got rained out. So we didn't even get to see the sail away party. And then I really didn't see them again until I stumbled upon, there was no trivia listed in, and you guys know, I am all about my trivia on cruise ships, no trivia listed at all. And then there was a thing that said musical theater at 7:30 with Michael so-and-so in the Nightingales. I was like, I'm in. So we went in thinking it was going to be 30 minutes of musical theater and music. It was trivia. I was delighted. I was so happy. And by the way, I was by myself. My kids left because they were like, oh, I thought it was music. I'm out. So I'm there by myself. I got 19 right. I tied with another team that had 10 people on it who also got 19 right. They won the tiebreaker. And so he gave them the prize. I'm like, I'm literally one person. I feel like that should be the tiebreaker. If you have one person and they have 10, and you have the same score, doesn't that mean that your brain is as good as 10 brains? Is that what that means? But I'm not bitter. It's just a medal.
Not much.
Oh my God.
Anyway, what else were we talking about?
Okay, so let's talk about the Aquamouse. Sorry,
Ooh.
George, I'm probably stepping all over your toes. I mean,
I
just
don't
want to
have any
know
toes
about
left.
this.
They're squished.
There's scrunch. Sorry, I want to know about this Aquamouse.
Did you find the capacity of the ship, George, before we move on?
Yeah,
to that?
4,000 passengers.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So okay,
Yeah.
and I will say that I am not a big ship girl. Like I've had my big ship experiences, and they're great for a lot of people who love them. That's fantastic. It's not for me. It gives me anxiety, thinking about just getting from one end to the other, and even me, little old me, who wants to be 500 and under city ships. I'm intrigued by this. I'm looking forward to sailing, but
Yeah,
4,000 people trying to get into the same lounge.
Yeah, but they don't all go to the same lounge, and that is the nice thing. I mean, people say that all the time. Well, it'll be overrun with kids, but the kids are all on deck too, where children belong. So it's all good. The Aquamouse was actually really great. It's, I never think that these like water rides, these slides or whatever, live up to the hype, really. I think it was good, maybe even better than I expected it to be. It was a low bar though. I did ride it twice. The first day they weren't letting people ride single, but there was also like, they had some of the rafts rigged up with media cameras so that the media people could ride like with a camera on them, you know how they do that. And so they apparently had a couple situations where single riders were getting stuck like halfway through the ride, little kids, because they weren't heavy enough. And I'm like, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't let me ride by myself. So I had to like find Marcus and get him to come upstairs and ride with me. And which he wasn't too mad about, but and then I rode it again with Finley the next day. And that by then they'd figured out the whole single rider thing, and people were riding, little kids were riding by themselves and not getting stuck. So I don't know what was going on, but it is super cute. If you expect it to be an interactive movie experience the whole time, it's not. The first part is the interactive movie stuff, and then the actual like water coaster part is just totally a water coaster. It does go out over the edge, and honestly I liked it better than the Aqua Duck. I liked it way better than the Aqua Dunk. I won't do that thing. Anything where I get dropped at high speed by myself without a seatbelt is not okay. So I still haven't done that one. It's just but the Aqua Duck, I think it's comparable to that, just a little bit longer, and with the added video element to it, a little interactive element. Lines were shorter on Castaway Key Day, just like you would expect, and lines are shorter in the evening as well. And apparently it is worth riding in the evening. I get dressed up for dinner. My kids do as well. So we were not putting on our bathing suits again at night. Although I think Marcus, after dancing on the deck until 1 o'clock in the morning, could have gone on the Aquamouse in his suit and he would have been just fine. But
what can you tell us about the movie theater? Do they still have it?
There's two. There's two. They're smaller, but they can show 2 movies at the same time, which is really great. So popcorn is still not free, which Disney, Disney.
Get it together, Disney.
As much as we pay for
that's how they're making their revenue though, Elizabeth. That's all the profit they get is from the popcorn.
Popcorn.
Because the shareholders.
But I was
on shareholder.
I
say free popcorn.
Free popcorn. Buzz Lightyear was showing on the ship, and so was Thor: Love and Thunder, and Thor was only like, it had only been out a week. So
well, I'm jealous because I still haven't seen either. I still haven't seen either one of those.
I've seen Thor. I haven't seen Lightyear. I need to see it. So still first run movies, and the theater is really nice and comfortable. It's not, there's no reclining seats or anything. And the last thing I want to do when I'm on a cruise is watch a movie. I know I'm weird like that, but if that is what you enjoy doing, then you absolutely can do it on this ship.
Did anybody do room service? I can't remember if you
well, I didn't, but my friends who won the Tower Suite did.
Oh yeah.
So they got one night in the Tower Suite. It was the last night of the cruise, and they ordered from Paolo. They tested the concierge services like good scientists do for science. They said it was delightful. It was interesting because they're still building stuff on the ship when we were getting on, they were putting shelves up in Nightingale. I mean, it was still being built while we were getting on the ship. And so actually they moved into the Tower Suite at like 2 p.m. on the last day before the last day before the very last day. And somebody from Disney Imagineering knocked on their door and didn't realize somebody was in there because they wanted to see, they had changed out the chandelier over the dining room table because apparently people have been hitting their heads on it. So they had just changed it out. And they said that there still weren't light bulbs in it actually while because they went to turn on the light. So they were still making changes. I'm going to just say something right now. The Tower Suite is lovely. You can't book it, for as long as the ship is for sale right now, you can't book it. It's booked solid. But my favorite suites were the Royal Suites, the two-story Royal Suites. They were far better. That you got a jacuzzi, you had a balcony. The Tower Suite doesn't have a balcony. To me, the Tower Suite is the show-off suite. That's the suite that is for the person who wants everyone to know that they're in the Tower Suite. Because honestly, everyone will see you in there. Because if you come by those windows at all, you can see right in there. Unless you keep the blinds down the whole time, everyone will see you there. I have video of me waving to somebody from in there. I mean, yeah, it's definitely the Showman Suite. It's beautiful. I mean, it has a kitchen, it has a dining room. It was really nice to be able to spend a few hours in there, like we actually lived there. It has it's a separate media room, 2 bedrooms. I mean, it can sleep a ton of people. It's great, but if given the choice, I would stay in a 2-bedroom Royal Suite every single time. It's not all that. It might be a bag of chips, but it's not all that and a bag of chips,
And what on the ship still wasn't quite ready for prime time?
So I mentioned The Little Mermaid and definitely Aladdin. It's still not even ready for, dinner time. so that is not ready. And then the activities, I think I mentioned as well. I am assuming that by now with revenue guests on board that there's more activities. I'll be curious to hear from friends who are sailing now if they had more to do. We didn't lack for things to do, but there just wasn't the amount of things that I'm used to. They were running anything revenue based. So the tastings, the whiskey tastings, the champagne tastings, the beer tastings, the rum tastings, those were all totally happening, the mixology classes, but the free stuff, the trivia contests, there just wasn't as much of that for sure. Some of the kids stuff was running, even though this was a travel trade cruise. It was unusual in that many travel trade things that I go on and media things, kids are not invited. In this case, kids were more than welcome, and there were kids of all ages on this ship. So it was actually kind of fun to see them reacting to the spaces and the splash pads and everything. Another thing about this ship that I want to point out is that they broke the pools up into lots of little pools, which at first seems irritating. And then you start thinking, oh, but if somebody has a little spill in one of the pools, it doesn't close the pool entirely to everybody. There's lots of other, a little spill, if one will. I will also give you a little pro tip. The adult area only is lovely, and the infinity pools are lovely. They're small, they're lovely. There's no shade. The Chippendale family pool, hardly anybody realizes it's there. It's at the other end of the ship, and there's tons of shade. So if you're really looking for shady and by a pool that isn't overrun by kids, the Chippendale pool, I mean, again, my cruise is a little different, so maybe it does get overrun by kids, but I think most of them stay in the middle of the ship and don't go all the way to the
secret's going to be out.
Secret's out. The secret's out. But yeah, definitely a better space. It's not as close to coffee, which has its drawbacks, but there is a bar close by. So, and by the way, you're never far from a bar on this ship. Never.
Maybe that's why they spread the adults areas out throughout the ship
to make sure you could get a drink everywhere. Yeah. Very possible.
That was very smart. That was a smart parent who was okay.
I think if anything, it's just confusing to guests. There's like, is it adult only or is it not? Whereas the district before was just very clearly adult only after this hour, and it's just very clearly marked. But
I have to say I like that district feel, because you go down there and like everything like clubbing is for you.
I don't disagree with you, but I do think that I didn't hate this either, and I did force myself to go down to Keg and Compass and Triton's and all that, and Luna. There was nothing going on, but again, different cruise. It was the last night, so people might have been packing. I was not. I was going to try all the bars so that Lindsay wouldn't unfriend me.
Here's the thing is that's cruise 101. Nobody goes out the last night. Nobody.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's packing.
I did. And I don't regret it.
All right. Well, on that note, that's our show for this week. Thank you for hanging out with us. Please like our Facebook page, rate us, and be sure to tell your friends about us. You can find our previous episodes on the podcast page of outlandertravel.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. On behalf of Elizabeth and Lindsay and myself, George, thanks for joining us this week. Gotta fly.